You know, I got to thinking, maybe SHTF won't be nearly as bad as what we're predicting. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Titan Apprentice, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we are talking about SHTF and thinking, using real world situations that are going on right now and in the past, and looking back and thinking, yeah, you know what, SHTF might happen, but it might not be nearly as bad as what we think. When we as preppers talk about SHTF, we are talking about the end of times, the end of the world as we know it, the end of the rule with law. We're talking about neighbors eating neighbors. We're talking about roaming bands of marauders. We're talking about the world on fire. And that's probably what you picture when we say SHTF. Something that most people probably don't think of when somebody mentions SHTF is sitting down on your couch, kicking your feet up, turning on the TV, and watching a show about tigers. Most people probably don't think of waking up every morning at 6 a.m., putting the nicest outfit you have on, and going to work and not complaining about it. I guarantee you not a single person that has thought about SHTF has ever thought that they are going to go to a local coffee shop and sit down and have a coffee while they enjoy a conversation with a buddy, a friend, a coworker, as the world burns around them. But in reality, all those three things that I've listed have happened in some of the most recent disasters, in the most recent SHTF events. So for today's video, I'm going to be discussing events that have happened in both U.S. history and around the world, events that happened 100 years ago and are happening currently right now, and discussing them in a brighter light, so to speak. Thinking like maybe SHTF won't be as bad as what we think. Maybe SHTF will be a little bit better. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form promoting SHTF. I'm not sitting here going, man, I hope the world ends so I can go to Starbucks. And it's not saying that SHTF won't be bad. It's just saying it might be a little bit brighter, a little bit less dim than what we're picturing. So one of the first scenarios I want to bring up is a scenario that's happened 100 years ago and is now a single chapter in a history book. That is the Great Depression, one of the worst times in American history. It was a combination of multiple things. The Roaring '20s brought with it credit, and people buying things on credit, and people buying a lot of stocks on credit because the sky was the limit on stocks. There's no way that you could lose money on stocks, so you had overinflated stocks, which when they figured that one out, the stock market crashed. That in combination with a rush on the banks. Supposedly started in Kentucky. One man went to withdraw the money and was told, hey, we don't have it. That created a rush that spread out through the economy. People in all different states heard the story of the banks not having their money, and they went to go withdraw it, only to be told no. They say that the height of the Great Depression, 25% unemployment. That is beyond outstanding. That is beyond comprehension. Because I wasn't alive during the Great Depression, I can't tell you what 25% looks like, but that is 1 out of every 4 people without a job. I was in school in 2008. I experienced 2008 and saw my parents, my friends, my family lose their job. However, the height of the 2008 Great Recession, unemployment got between 12 and 15%. You're talking about almost double that. 25%, 1 out of every 4 people lost their jobs. But if you flip that number around, that means that 75% of workers worked during the Great Depression. 75%. 3 out of every 4 people still woke up every morning and went to work. 3 out of 4 people woke up every morning in a nice outfit, in a nice dress, to fix their hair, shaved, combed, brushed their teeth, and went to work. And they did not complain. If you had a job during the Great Depression, you kept your mouth shut. I know people now who are like, oh, I hate my job. Back then, you kept your mouth shut. It could have been the worst job, the job that you hated, absolutely despised, but you knew that if you walked out that door, number one, it was going to be hard for you to find work, but number two, there's 1,000 people waiting for you to drop out. Most people who think about SHTF don't think about waking up every day and still going to work. I can't tell you how many people are said, yeah, I'm ready for SHTF to come. so I can still go work at Burger King, so I can still go work at McDonald's, so I can still go to Lowe's and be a door greeter. That's not what most people are thinking about during SHTF, but for the world's biggest SHTF event that America has ever faced, that's what it was. You went to work, you put in the hours, you came home, and you still grew the garden. You still went out hunting, you still went out fishing, you still tried to trap an animal, you still tried to grow your fruits and your vegetables and your stuff to put back, because you knew that by next week, by next month, by next year, it could all be gone. Most people who think about SHTF definitely do not think about kicking back on their couch, flipping their feet up, turning the TV on, and watching a show about tigers. But yet, in one of our most recent SHTF events that we had, it's kind of what happened. You see, in late 2019, early 2020, I kept hearing about this virus over in China that if it got to American shores, it was going to kill millions. And it was going to destroy the power grid, the way we live, economical statuses. It was going to destroy everything. I sat and I watched the exact same videos that you guys did, the videos that got leaked. I watched as patients lay dying in hospital floors because there wasn't enough beds to take care of these individuals. I sat and I watched as countries went on lockdown because they were scared to death. You were scared because this was it. This was the end of the world. This was the new Spanish flu. This was going to be the destruction of not only our country and our way of life, but of the entire world. This was going to kill millions. And every week on the news, the prepper news I'll say, you saw martial laws being declared. People are coming to take your guns. FEMA's coming out and shooting people because they're turning into zombies. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. But it wasn't. In many cases, places did get overwhelmed. Hospitals did get overwhelmed, right? New York City was an absolute big one. They created an outside morgue for people. They brought in a big naval ship to help facilitate the care of some of these people. You had car manufacturers making ventilators for patients. It was bad. It was terrible. It was a horrific event. But for most of us, the most horrific event during that situation was the fact that we actually sat down and watched a documentary about a man who owned tigers who was trying to kill a woman who owned tigers who may or may not have killed her husband by a tiger. That was like the worst case for many of us. Now for the last one, let's go across the world a little bit in a country called Lebanon. You see, Lebanon, much like Venezuela, is going through a hyperinflation scenario and has been for the last like 5 or 6 years. The Lebanese lira has lost 70% of its value. It used to be 16 Lebanese lira for $1, and now it's in the thousands, right? And you see the reports. You type in hyperinflation in Lebanon, you see all these reports of videographers and cameramen going into these homes that are in shambles. And they're asking these people, hey, when's the last time you ate? And how are you going to find your next meal? And these families have no clue. They have no clue when their next meal is coming from. They have no clue when's the next time they're going to eat. Their children are starving. They are starving because their money holds no value. Then in the same shot, in the same news article, in the same news story that is being displayed on video, in the background, you see the coffee shop open. And people are paying the equivalent of $10 and $12 for a cup of coffee to hang out with their friends for an hour. In the foreground, you see the news reporter talking about how this is affecting the country and how we don't know how we're going to recover from this and how people are dying and losing weight and children are starving in the street. But in the background, the markets are open. In the background, you see people passing by her like there's nothing going on. What most people don't think of during an SHTF event is going to work. Going back home, kicking up your feet, watching Netflix. What most people don't think about is going to the coffee shops and enjoying a meal, enjoying a coffee, enjoying a baguette or a snack with a buddy. Because SHTF is supposed to be this end of the world apocalyptic scenario where everyone's supposed to fear each other and we're eating our neighbors and we're killing our neighbors and we're eating horses and bugs and your own family dog just for your next meal. But the true reality of it, from history, none of that has happened. Maybe there's places that you would get robbed if you walked down the wrong street. Absolutely, it's going on in Lebanon right now. During the Great Depression, you had the Bonnie and Clyde gang, the Barrow gang. They would shoot you just for standing in their way. Yep. How's that any different from Southside Chicago right now? How's that any different from Los Angeles right now? How's that any different than any back street, back corner, back alleyway right now? It's not. The only difference is the lights and the power are still on right now. The only difference is that our money is actually worth something right now. Now, I have painted SHTF in a very, very good light in this video. But that's not to say that bad things won't happen, right? People suffered during the Great Depression. People suffered during COVID. People suffered right now in Lebanon and Venezuela. So I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it's all going to be rainbows and sunshine and sitting around in a drum circle singing Kumbaya, right? SHTF would still be bad. Hyperinflation, Great Depression, another virus hitting America would still be bad. People are going to die. People are going to suffer. But that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. That doesn't mean that it's the end-all, be-all. We're going to go out eating and killing our neighbors. Preppers have this mindset that every time it rains, the sky is falling. We have this mindset that every time there's a storm that hits, oh, it's caused by aliens and the Illuminati and the lizard people, right? No. Does bad things happen? Of course. Will bad things affect you? Of course. The whole idea of being prepared is to suffer through those storms. I still think bad things are going to happen. I still think that something bad is going to happen and we should be prepared for it. That's not to say that when it happens or if it happens, people won't still die, because they will. People won't suffer, because they will. People will still be hurt, injured, and suffer and dying. But I think that the SHTF that we've been promised for years upon years through the prepping community is not the one that's going to come to fruition. What I think we need to do is take a step back and learn from history, both American history and world history, and see what's actually going on in those areas. Yes, will you get robbed in Venezuela right now? Yeah. Will you get robbed in Los Angeles right now? Yeah. The difference is one's hyperinflation and one's a bunch of gangs. I don't think it's going to be a neighbors eating neighbors type of SHTF scenario. I do think something is going to happen and you should be prepared for it. But don't plan on shooting your neighbor the first day of SHTF. Don't plan on eating him the second day, because I don't think that's going to happen. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. Y'all stay safe out there. That's all I got for today's video. Peace out.